We strike with the wrath of the righteous!
Isness wasn't. Let's go.
Isness wasn't. Okay, we're recording. We're live from the top of the Watchtower. That's quite right. The lightning goes off and stuff. I say lightning, you can only hear the thunder because it's a podcast.
Yes.
Okay, so it's episode 6. Apologies for this late arrival. We've both been a bit busy with work and stuff, have we not, Norris?
We have missed the Watchtower. Very busy indeed.
Hi, Norris. Are you alright?
I'm alright, thanks. Missed the Watchtower.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. I've not seen you since, when was it?
Like 2 minutes ago.
Oh yeah, when we were making a brew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take a sip of that brew now.
I'll do the same.
Not even a sound effect, that's a real life cup of tea.
Good old fashioned English tea.
It is actually Yorkshire tea. Yorkshire tea. I think we'll have just confirmed anybody's preconceived notions from across the pond about British people, because we were just sat here actually drinking some tea.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well done, America.
Anyway, so this podcast, what we're talking about?
I've no idea.
We're talking about Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses, of which I used to be one. Jehovah's Witnesses, not Mormons.
Yes.
Shall we just establish ourselves? Hi, I'm Mr. Watchtower. I used to be a Jehovah's Witness, and Norris is, as you claimed last time, what are you?
The Messiah.
I think we were closer to lapsed Catholic.
Oh yeah, okay, that'll do.
Although that was almost like a bit of confusion, wasn't it, with you, with your sort of spiritualness based on your family?
Yes.
Based on your father and your mother being what?
My mother being a former nun and my father being a failed priest.
Well, he failed grandly if he had like...
He did. No,
if he had like 3 boys.
He trained to be a priest, but he saw the light before he got to the final lap of education.
And by the light, was that euphemism for your mother's private parts?
Yes.
Ew.
Eternal light.
Okay, so one of the reasons why I was a little bit busy over the last few weekends is because I went down south and I went to a Mormon church. So I'm actually going to report back on the fact that I went to go to a Mormon church. A friend of a friend's son went away for a mission. So I took the opportunity to be a +1 at the sort of homecoming, shall we say, like like the prodigal son returns. So this guy's son had been to Sierra Leone and ate nothing but rice and helped people out and shared.
How was Leone?
He helped people out and shared the good news, and by the good news I mean the Book of Mormon. And if you can hear this, listeners, it's another
a rustling of lies.
It's another rustle of lies. What I'm holding here that you just heard then is the Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ. Another.
Did he come back?
He came back, and he came back to the Americas. so I'm told. I've only read like the first sort of like six chapters of the Book of Nephi, which was weird because.
So you've actually read it?
Well, I'm reading it. It's my toilet material.
That's heavy going, that.
I read a page and then wipe my backside. I don't really.
Page?
Yeah, every time I finish a page. Yeah. No,
most people have a bookmark. Mr. Watchtower wipes his ass on the page and then he knows he's read it.
Yeah. It saves dog earring, doesn't it? It's just there's nothing left of it, so you know where to carry on where you left off. Yeah. Being that this was I was going to say it was written a lot later than the Bible, but supposedly this was like translated around the same time. Like a lot of people say about like the Bible having lots of like bad stuff in it. People dying, weird sex things, and people cutting off hundreds of people's foreskins and stuff. Just like really.
If I knew all that existed, I never read it.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Sounds really good.
You want to read it all properly. Yeah. Well, I started reading the Book of Mormon, and I thought, you know how like Mormons are always kind of like wide-eyed, smiley faces. They always seem like really nice, kind of like accommodating people,
I met Mormons. I don't want to go too much of a tangent, but when I was younger, we went on a family holiday, and we became friendly with this family in the tent next door to us. and the guy was like a Hell's Angel type guy. He had like a long ponytail, covered in tattoos, goatee beard, and he was a bodybuilder as well. And he was a dad. He had 3 kids and stuff. But like to us, he was like a pretty cool guy. You know, he was just the opposite of what my dad was, basically. Not that my dad wasn't cool. If you ever listen to this, Dad, sorry, you are cool in my eyes. You and your beige jumpers.
Norris Senior.
Yeah. No, but we got to know this family really well.
Mm.
And then when we went home, we went to their house a few times. And obviously, as a kid, we were just going to see these kids that we used to play with on holiday. And his daughters were really fit, so we really enjoyed going, right?
Mm.
It turns out, I didn't know until I was sort of maybe 19, 20, that this Hell's Angel guy was a Mormon priest. And he tried to get my dad to become a Mormon priest after about the 5th or 6th visit when we went to see them. And I vividly remember asking my mum and dad once, how come we've never been to see... I can't remember what the name, I think he was called Steve. How come we've not been to see... Steve and that lot. And he said, we've just lost contact. And then later on, he told me that it got a little bit uncomfortable because we'd been invited to a wedding, and we went to this wedding, and it was a bit of a Mormon celebration type thing. And it was at this wedding that quite a lot of people were asking my dad if he'd made a decision about becoming a Mormon priest.
What, like a Catholic transfer or something?
Yeah,
like because
basically.
he knew his Bible, he could just sort of adopt the book.
You know, it was a bit like Frank Lampard leaving Chelsea to go to Man City.
We're talking football now, and I think most of our listeners are in America, so soccer.
And basically, we stopped going to see him. I think it got a little bit too...
Because your dad felt uncomfortable.
I think so, yeah. But that story just came back to me that second, and I forgot all about it, which is weird because it's very relevant.
Luckily, even though, as you usually do, you try to create some kind of untethering process, I remembered exactly why you were saying it. Because I was saying that Mormons are usually like sort of nice and smiley, and you thought, I remember an exception to that rule, yeah? Some Hell's Angel looking dude. Anyway, my point was, the Mormons are always like, you know, they're very accommodating, nice people. You know, they'll offer to, you know, cut the grass in your garden or something.
Is that a euphemism, Mr. Watchtower?
They'll offer to sort out your garden.
Was Steve offering to cut my mum's grass in her garden? Is that why we stopped going to visit
Steve? Offering to prune the garden and trim the bushes. I was surprised to find in the Book of Mormon, when I started reading it, like the very first story that I started reading in the Book of Nephi was about him getting the power from God to go into this place and chop somebody's head off. And I just thought, wow, there's violence in this as well. It was just kind of crazy, and I'd never really considered what the Book of Mormon was, because the sort of, you know, the way that it came to be was so ridiculous. I didn't think I'd ever bother reading it, but I thought I'd have a little look, you know, seeing as I've been given it for free. But it was just a bit amazing to me that the very first book, the very first story that I began to read, being that Mormons are all smiley and stuff, the first one was just cutting some guy's head off. Crazy.
Nice.
So he cut this guy's head off, wore the dead guy's armour in order to sort of dupe the people of the city that he was this guy, and stole some bronze plates that were like the record of the ancient Jews. Right, so anyway, ignoring the Book of Mormon, because like that'll just be something that I'll read and I'll report back on what's going on with that. But the actual trip itself, what happened was me and a friend went down, and we were sort of invited to the church, because as part of this, like, you know, homecoming for the guy that had been to Sierra Leone, was it was his, I guess, well, I was going to say it was his job, but I guess it was his kind of like duty to get up there and explain a little bit something about what his journey was like, because he was one of the few people from that congregation that had been sent on a mission. If you don't know anything about Mormon people and their missions, it's like a 2-year thing. There's a couple of good documentaries actually if you have a look online. It's like a 2-year thing where you leave your congregation, you leave your place where you live, and on behalf of the church, you become an elder, and they call themselves elder whatever. People who have heard or seen the West End musical, The Book of Mormon, will know exactly what I'm talking about. But so like you'd be like Elder Norris, except it wouldn't be Norris; it'd be a second name that we've made up. Yeah, and then you would go around, preach the gospel, preach the Book of Mormon to people, get some people converted into the church, and then after that 2-year process, I think the idea is that you've really cemented your beliefs. So this is what this guy had done. He'd been in Sierra Leone for 2 years, come back, and then he explained to the congregation all about his travels and stuff. It only took about 20 minutes for him to actually say this, because in the church itself, I forget how one of the guys explained it. I think he explained it something sort of like in like silly terms. It was like called something like Crazy Sunday, because apparently I think it's the first Sunday of each month, if I remember. Was that when I was down there, the first Sunday, or the last or the first Sunday of every month? They have this thing which he sort of nicely called it Crazy Sunday, which basically means once they've had like their usual kind of meeting sort of process, the final part of the day is opened with prayer and song, like many churches, and then after the bishop has said a little bit of something, he sort of explains what it is that he's thankful for. Like Thanksgiving in America. He explains what he's thankful for and what his one of the things that makes him believe that what he believes is true. And then once he's finished with that, basically anybody in the congregation can get up and explain a little bit of something that they think is true, or something that cemented their belief, something that has helped them get through something, one of the reasons why they think the Book of Mormon is reality or whatever. And I think that's why they call it Crazy Sunday, because pretty much anybody can get up and say whatever they want. So I think if it like draws a halt to proceedings, like they can't really stop it because someone's up there with a microphone. So this guy explained about Sierra Leone, and I felt like the whole experience was a little bit disconcerting, because when he explained about Sierra Leone, he didn't really mention about the faith itself. I mean, maybe that came in the church service before when I arrived, but it wasn't really about faith. It was about sort of the accommodation, the way that he lived, and the fact that quite a few people were converted. Again, he was probably
converted to Mormonism.
Yeah.
Was that his job? Try and convert a few people.
Yeah, because it's 2 years preaching, isn't it? So the idea is you get the word out there, people accept it, and then people are baptized, and they have like a bit of a. I presume they have some kind of quota for the amount of people that they baptize, or at least it's expected that you at least baptize some people, and they get paired up with somebody. I was always under the assumption that they got paired up with a single person, and that was their single partner for the 2 years. But this guy said to me that he had like 6 partners in that 2 years. So like some people would come and go, some people would be, maybe finish their mission a little bit early and disappear, or they chop and change just to sort of help each other out. But that's basically what happens. They team up in twos, usually like one already experienced elder taking somebody under the wing to sort of show them the ropes and stuff. And yeah, the job is to go around preach. They've got like a little they'll have like a little base of operations, place where they get to stay. It's all like deliberately very minimalist. They're only allowed to communicate in the form of like a couple of phone calls a year, I think it is, and they're allowed an email a month or a letter. So that's their thing. It's a pretty isolating experience, really. It's the documentary that I saw. If anyone can, if you can tell where our accents are from, quite close by to us is one of the Mormon temples, just on the edge of Preston. You can just see it on the motorway. There was a documentary on I think it was Channel 4, of a guy from a little bit further down south, and he came up to that Mormon. What's it called? The Mormon temple, because they've also got like a what do you call it? Like a place where they'd train them, a training center. And the documentary followed this guy, and he was young. He was like maybe 19 or 20, and the whole way through, I just felt really sorry for him, because it was just pure isolation.
Do you not want to be there?
Well, I felt like he was brainwashed into saying, "Oh, I'm really enjoying this," after the fact, because like he spent a good length of time sort of like worrying about stuff, and you know you could see like tears in his eyes, and it's really isolating. I felt sorry for him, but I guess if you get somebody and you isolate them and they are partnered up with a more senior member who is also, you know, a believer of the same book, I think everything out there becomes alien to you, and everything is sort of the world, whereas, you know, Mormons will believe themselves to be of the church. And I think that isolation process really helps them maintain their faith, because they believe that it's a faith that's getting them through it. Yeah. And if anything puts them off or confuses them or upsets them, they've got the church to fall back on and nothing else, because they don't really, you know, the family won't have the chance to say, well, just come home. Yeah. And even if the family had the chance to say just come home, they probably wouldn't say just come home, because they are also of the church. Yeah. So I think it'd be a strange isolating process that would eventually end up with you having your faith strengthened, irrespective of how irrational it may be.
Interesting stuff. So does that come? Do Jehovah's Witnesses do anything similar?
Jehovah's Witnesses don't do missions, but it is sort of more or less mandated that if you are capable, you must preach. Because the reason they're called Jehovah's Witnesses is because they literally bear witness to Jehovah. That's how it is. So if you are capable of preaching, you do preach, and if you have the time to preach, you preach. If you can preach more, you preach more. If you're in a situation where you can preach a lot, you become like what they call a part-time pioneer or a full-time pioneer. And if you're a full-time pioneer, you're basically full-time preaching, nothing else.
No job. You just preach.
I mean, you might be able to hold down a job, but they do. I think some of them do hold down a job. It's like works on hours basically. So say like I don't know the exact hours because it's a long time since, but let's say a full-time pioneer preaches for 30 hours. Yeah. You might just so happen to have a job that's in the mornings, or a part-time job where you can fit in 30 hours. They can do that. Yeah. And they do have people that do like, it's kind of like the equivalent of missions where they can do like overseas pioneering. Yeah. A member of my family did that.
I suppose it's a way of travelling the world.
Yeah. Travelling in isolation. Yeah.
Who pays for all this?
The church. Well, actually, in Jehovah's Witnesses terms, the church via donations and things like that, tax-free, no doubt. With the form of Mormons, the Mormon missionaries, their families actually provide quite a bit of money. And the Mormons themselves live a life during those 2 years of like it's very basic, very minimal. You know, they're up early, they're sorted, they're out preaching, and that's that. They're allowed like a certain amount of money. I think it's like the equivalent of something like £85 a week or something like that. So they get all the food and everything taken from that, and that's it. It's supposed to be very basic. It's very kind of like, you know, very godly, if you will. Their amenities and stuff are very limited, especially depending on what country they're in.
Crazy. So,
but it's a way of spreading the word, isn't it?
Well, good for them.
Good job, Mormons. Yeah.
It's mad, isn't it, how people do these things? How people buy into this and then spend their lives preaching. It's just crazy. Crazy. As a lapsed Catholic, it's so much easier being a Catholic.
Because you don't have to preach, you just have to turn up.
You don't have to do anything. You know what I mean? I mean, you get a few people who volunteer to do Sunday school, or you have sort of people who, help giving out the communion, or doing the music or whatever. But as long as you turn up on a Sunday, that's to an extent. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, we spoke about that before, didn't we? When we were talking about Jehovah's Witness and Catholic versions of creationism, and we were saying, weren't we, about how you can either believe in evolution or not. Catholics will still take you. It's fine. You can be a murderer or not. It's fine. You can still be a Catholic. No big deal. You can pretty much do whatever you want and be a Catholic. the only way that you could ever really get excommunicated is through really weird, obscure reasons, like you married a Protestant in a certain time period or something. But you can pretty much be a Catholic and do and say and be whatever you want, as long as you either turn up for church or not. You just sort of down on the books.
Yeah, you're on the books. Once you're on the books,
it's a bit crazy, isn't it?
You're always on the books.
Right. So I just wanted to explain a little bit something about the my visit to the Mormon Church. A lot of people get confused with if you say you're a Jehovah's Witness, they will say, "Oh, are them the people that go around knocking on people's doors, or is that Mormonism?" Because they're confused, because Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons are usually the only sort of fairly mainstream religious people that go around knocking on doors carrying briefcases and shirts and ties. So it's understandable to get them confused. And actually, as like a former Jehovah's Witness, I used to think that there was almost no similarities between Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons other than that. But actually, the way that the church service runs and everything is very, very similar. The inside of the place is very kind of minimal. There's not a lot of pictures up and stuff. There is just like the odd piece of art as you walk into the building, but the place where the services take place is just seats facing the front, maybe like a bouquet of flowers on either side, a very sort of simple stage with a non-decorative lectern for people to put their stuff on and speak, a microphone, a clock, and like a thing. What would you call it? Just like almost like an ornamental shelf to put numbers on, and those numbers correspond to the hymn that they're about to sing, and that's about it. And that's almost identical to the Jehovah's Witnesses church. So when I was in there, it felt almost nostalgic. It was the sort of the background, the atmosphere, the way that people greeted each other. It was all very Jehovah's Witness-esque. And the only thing I can think of is that both of them being sort of culty versions of Christianity. I think there's only one way which a non-mainstream version of Christianity, or in most religions for that matter, there's only one way that they can really survive, or there's only one way that they can functionally run, and that's with a hierarchical system like a bishop, or in Jehovah's Witnesses' case an elder. And then they've got people that help the church, run the church. Then they have the general kind of population of the congregation. They have people helping out on the sidelines. They've got some people preaching more often than others. So it's very, very similar. But the main difference is that Mormons have the Book of Mormon, and Jehovah's Witnesses still use just the Bible. And that's it, really. So to a Mormon looking at Jehovah's Witness and a Jehovah's Witness looking to a Mormon, they will be so polar opposites, it would be untrue. But as an outsider looking in, they're very similar. It's just that one of them believes a different book.
So this Book of Mormon, is that extracts from the Bible, or is that a completely different book?
Yeah, it's a completely different book. Some of the chapters are sort of they're allegedly written around the same time as some of the books of the Bible. I mean, I'm only reading through it. I'm only on the first book. But so far as I can tell, there's like the Book of Nephi, which is the first book that I'm reading now, and then his dad Lehi's book that follows. And basically, the purpose of this book is to sort of explain, like the sort of the history kind of the Jews and stuff. And then it'll gradually go on to explain, or as far as I'm aware it will, gradually explain how these magic plates that explain the sort of genealogy of Jesus and stuff like that. The plates it's an explanation of how the plates came to be in America, basically.
Right, you're going to have to forgive me. I know nothing about Mormonism at all. I know nothing at all about Mormonism.
Yeah.
Right? Magic plates means nothing to me. When did Mormons come about, and why did they come about? Why do they have to give a history of the Jews? Do they see the Jews as... do they see themselves as former Jews who So
It's funny because anybody who's seen or heard the Book of Mormon, the play, as soon as you said that, I got the beginning of one of the great songs in my head from it, which starts with Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism. It starts
when
with,
was this?
It starts
When did
with,
it exist?
well, that's what I'm saying. The very first lyric of the history of Mormon, sort of, the song, which is the history. His very first lyric is, "I'm going to take you back to biblical times, 1823."
Wow. Right.
And then it's like, "Da-na-na," and then like Joseph Smith goes through all of the things that happened. Basically, yeah, 1823. Really brief history, and I apologise if I get this wrong, but anybody can feel free to message me and explain what I got wrong. But long story cut short is Joseph Smith, 1823 or thereabouts. I might have got that lyric slightly wrong, but 1900s, 1800s. Joseph Smith finds golden plates on his land somewhere. Yeah, he unearths the golden plates, and using a magic seer stone, he can read these plates that are essentially ancient, like hieroglyphs. Yeah. Using the seer stone and checking out the plates, he can translate them, and it turns out that they are like an ancient. Well, it's basically the Book of Mormon that I'm currently reading.
How many plates?
I don't know, but who knows?
How big were the plates?
I'm not too sure of the dimensions. They no longer exist.
What happened to the plates?
I think they're residing in heaven.
Wait a minute. So he found plates. Where did he find them?
He was. I think he was told. I'll have to look at this properly, but I think he was told by Moroni, an angel. He was told by Moroni where these plates were, and then he dug them up, and then he translated them. And one of his.
So that whole book was written on those plates.
Apparently so. Yeah.
So there must have been loads of them.
Well, not necessarily, because if they were like hieroglyphs, then one small tiny image could represent a sentence, couldn't it? Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know, but I mean, none of it makes sense. That's the least of its worries, to be fair, because they also believe that like the Garden of Eden was in Jackson County, Missouri, and they believe that Jesus went from where he was, like in the Middle East, to arriving in the Americas to sort of preach a little bit and stuff. One of the lyrics from the song is "Ancient Jews built boats and sailed to America."
Mm.
There's a whole messed up, like it is like, if you look at it, just it's one of the most ridiculous things that you're likely to see. It's right up there with Scientology.
That's craziness.
Mm.
Madness, I tell thee.
Yeah.
Oh.
So Joseph Smith. I think there's another reason where people get a crossover between Mormonism and Jehovah's Witnesses, because it's very similar with Jehovah's Witnesses. Because the founder of Jehovah's Witnesses he had a small fortune and had like a printing company, or bought a printing building. I can't remember exactly. And because he was very, very religious himself, but he thought the churches that he was going to weren't getting the odd the odd prophecy right, or he'd worked it out differently. He basically started writing his own stuff and printing them himself, and sort of developed a church from there. And Joseph Smith finds these plates, gets somebody to write down the things that he's saying, his translation of the plates, and eventually they become this book. And he gets a following, just like with Jehovah's Witnesses. And then the sort of the church goes from strength to strength.
So where did they branch off from? Did they branch off from a specific religion? The Mormons. So were they like, for example, Catholics, and they branched off from that, or what?
I think the original members would have been a variety, because it was in the Americas. So it would have been it would have been a mixture of all the sort of European religions, the people that were residing there at the time, looking for something that was palatable to their sort of religious needs. So the Book of Mormon is basically it's the Bible part 3. So they think that the Old Testament was there, and there were prophets from then. Then there's the New Testament, so there's Jesus as like the main guy, and then they believe that Joseph Smith was the sort of the modern day prophet, or a latter day saint. They're called. Yeah. So now they believe that each person that's taken over the mantle speaks directly to God, has like a direct line to God.
What?
So
Joseph Smith.
So Joseph Smith could speak to God or an angel. I may be getting that slightly wrong, but I think he could speak directly to God. And then it passed on. So now they have like Thomas Monson, who is like the leader of Mormonism right now, or the quote unquote mainstream Mormonism, because even Mormonism's branched off into different areas, because some of them believe in polygamy and some of them don't, and even that started to fracture over the years. So another schism. Crazy talk, no?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So
well, I feel like I've diverted because I wasn't really planning on going into the history of Mormonism. Otherwise, I would have made some notes.
Otherwise, I would have gathered some facts.
Yeah, I'd have gathered some facts together. But in general terms, I think I might be right. If you are former Mormon, feel free to just message me and correct me on these things. I'll have a look after the fact, but it just so happens that we're recording, so I'm doing this ad hoc. Yeah, so differences between Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses are fairly simple in the fact that Mormons believe in a Bible part 3. Jehovah's Witnesses don't. Jehovah's Witnesses just think that all the other Christians are wrong. Right. How convenient. Whereas Mormons have like a whole, they have a whole book to themselves and stuff, and they've got this sort of crazy story about somebody finding some plates and translating them. I guess that makes sense to them, but...
Right, so what next? What's next for the Mormons?
What's next? I'd like to think that what they believe is so crazy that it just die out, but I think they're just going from strength to strength. What with Mitt Romney having his own documentary and everything. Remember Mitt Romney? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a strange thing. So they're way in the public eye. Like what's he called? Somebody Flowers from. They had like an advertisement campaign a few years back, and I think that was like a deliberate strategy to make Mitt Romney a bit more sort of appealing, because they had loads of people that were already in the public eye, or seemed fairly respectable, and it'd just briefly show them like around their house or doing their job or helping their families, and they'd turn around and they'd be like, "I'm Mitt Romney and I'm a Mormon," like to try and make everything. Yeah. Seem normal amongst them. And when Mitt Romney was going for presidency, they deliberately played down all of his Mormonism in general. It was like a deliberate strategy to not speak about the specific pronouncements of Mormonism, because it was supposed to just be like, "Hey guys, I'm just a dude with some faith like you, and I think Jesus was awesome," without actually sort of putting across that he thought every version of Christianity was wrong. Because it's that kind of like, as Dan Dennett says, it's belief in belief, isn't it? Mormons, eh? Mormons,
there you go. That's Mormons for you.
Yeah.
What can you do? Can't live with them, can't live without them. Bloody Mormons. Just joking. I love Mormons.
Right, I'm going to keep this short because I think we should, because I've got some other things that I'm going to be working on and sending out. I've got a couple of questions young people ask things that I'm going to be turning into YouTube videos pretty soon. Thanks for subscribing, by the way. We've got a few subscribers directed our way, I think from the Bible Reloaded, I'm not too sure.
Thank you very much.
Feel free to say hello, subscribers, or downloaders, any of you. Right, so what's happening next week, Norris?
I don't know, you've just put me on the spot. What's happening next week?
Next week, I'm going to America.
Oh, you are going to America? Yeah. And you're going to be visiting the old Bible Belt.
I'm visiting the old Bible Belt, so I shall be Texas, I will be inside of you.
Yes.
Dallas, I will be inside of you. Austin, I will be inside of you. And Houston, I will be inside of you.
Yeah.
So when I go to Austin, I'm going to be going to a mega church out there. Average attendance like 2,500 people apparently. That's like every week. Madness, isn't it?
Yeah. Must be onto something.
yeah. It's like when they say like whatever it is, like 50 million Elvis fans can't be wrong or something. Yeah. Like I forget the exact amount, but it's like all those Elvis fans, they can't be wrong. Elvis must be a legend.
Yeah.
It's the same, innit?
Yeah.
All those people going to church can't be wrong.
Exactly. So,
I mean, they can be. And they are.
So,
but I'm going just to experience a Southern Baptist church, hold my hands in the air, and be all like, "Oh Jesus, sweet Jesus," with my hands in the air, and then I might speak in tongues if everyone else is doing it and see if they can make out what I'm saying. Like with my hands in the air. It's gonna be good. All the time while a Christian rock band are in the background.
Yeah.
Playing some version of what used to be classed as satanic material, but now it's all good because Jesus and God love it, as long as it's specifically for the praise of God.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to go there with a friend, the same friend, oddly enough, that I went to the Mormon Church with this time round.
Yep.
And I'll be reporting back 'cause I think it'll just be like a weird thing to experience.
Definitely. And to add to the weird experiences, what am I doing in 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks? A weird experience in 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What?
Going to Mallorca. All inclusive for a week. 9 outdoor swimming pools. A water park. We get unlimited access to the water park, if you were wondering. Me, the wife, the 2 kids, in the sun, not church in sight.
So no church?
I bring my church with me wherever I go. My church is the space within which I exist. The isness of who I am.
So next podcast I'll talk to you about church and stuff, as well as, things like barbecued ribs.
Yeah.
And you'll just be like, I sat by a pool and threw my kids in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, well, I guess I'll do most of the talking then.
Yeah.
Actually, what might be happening, depending on my resources, time and things like that, I may well do a podcast on the road after I've been to the church. I'm thinking of doing a podcast straight after while my mind is still sort of in the game. And you'll be introduced to a guest host known only as Bonaventure.
Yeah.
Because that is in fact her Catholic name. Like you have like a, what's it called?
Catholic name.
Yeah, but it's like confirmation name. That's it.
Do you know what mine is?
Go on.
Christopher.
Christopher Norris.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah. So I will just be calling her Bonaventure because that Bonaventure. I think it's pronounced as Bonaventure.
Yeah.
Bonaventure. We will be on a Bon adventure.
Good luck to her.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
It will be.
Right. So I'll get back to you with that, and in the meantime, I'll be releasing a questions young people ask. Because I haven't had a chance to do it yet, so I think there might be 2 coming your way in 1 month.
And what questions are young people asking at this moment in time, Mr. Watchtower?
I think up next is casual sex. I think
that's my kind of question.
Actually, just let me get over to my laptop here and get it up. the thing, yeah. Oh yeah. Next one's entitled "What about casual sex?" And then, actually, the next title after "What about casual sex?" If anybody bothered to download we're going to say DVD, download the PDF from jw.org. The next one actually says, "Why don't boys like me?" I mean, seriously? Oh, and then the one after that is, "Why don't girls like me?" I'm not going to go into all of these things because I think only some of them are worthy of a proper video. But yeah, up next is casual sex. What about casual sex? Teenagers.
Is sex ever casual? I've never had casual sex. Usually, it's extremely intense, tainted with guilt, and barely legal. No,
it's funny because your sex from your point of view is intense, but it's definitely casual for your wife.
Yes, yeah, very casual. She barely knows it's happening.
Is that what you meant by barely? She barely even knows it's happening.
Yes, she is so casual. No, but yeah, the idea of sex being casual, does that mean a fling, or does that mean that you're so relaxed whilst having sex that it's a casual experience?
No, I think what they're referring to is like heathen sex. Like where you have sex and it just doesn't matter because it's out of wedlock, and that makes you a dirty little slut.
Nice. I miss sex out of wedlock, even though I love my wife. Sex out of wedlock was the best.
Wow.
Especially with my wife.
Oh, right, okay, right, that's right.
Yeah. Fact, yeah.
Just redeemed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sex out of wedlock's exciting. Because you don't have to be married. Anyway. Casual sex.
Right, are we going to can this before you just
let's
start... Before you talk yourself into a divorce?
Yeah.
Right, okay, yeah, so that's episode 6. Episode 7 will be all about my adventures in a Baptist church, and Norris will not be with us.
Because I'm in Mallorca.
That was a yawn in the second because I'll be in Mallorca. Yeah. So we're both on our summer holidays.
Yay.
Yeah?
Can't wait.
Right, okay, I'll see you in Questions Young People Ask. Until then, do you want to say goodbye, Norris?
Goodbye, Norris. Good luck. Hope you have a nice time in Mallorca.
Yeah, I really hope you do.
Thanks.
And I will be having a good time in I was going to say in Texas, but in Dallas, Austin, Houston, New Orleans, and New York. Oh yeah, I'm doing it all.
Enjoy.
Okay, until then, remember there is no God. But if there is... What?
Okay, it's fine. No, it's fine. No, it's fine. There is no God. We'll go with that one.
But if there is, may he strike us down.
Yeah.